Gee, well, my parents didn't want me to be an artist. They were very liberal with me. I grew up in a very liberal household. My father was an artist. My mother was very active, worked all her life, and she didn't want me to be an artist. And I agreed with them. I did not want to be an artist. I did not want to. I saw it wasn't an easy life for my parents. My father was a working artist. He made his money through his work, and I really didn't think I had the courage to have a life like that. So I wanted a much easier life for myself. And I never thought I was going to live in Pakistan. I had a green card when I was leaving for university at Yale. I got into Yale, and I never thought I was coming back, and I never thought I was going to be an artist. Freshman year, this French American girl, Dominique Malaquet, took me for my first art history class, which is on the Baroque, the European Baroque, and it specialized on gardens. And suddenly the professor was amazing, and I could see the work in a whole different point of view. I mean, Judith Courtin was a professor, and she opened my eyes. And after that, I fell in love with art history. I started taking one class after another. I hated economics. I completed my major in economics, but then I got another major in art history, and I won one of the university prizes for my thesis, for my final thesis on Islamic gardens. Well, in my childhood, what I really played with were the sort of like the antiques that my father collected and my father and mother collected. There were Gandhara statues in our house, images of Krishna, Ganeshas. I mean, that's what I played with. I played with them. They became my friends. I had stories about them, and that was my fantasy world. I was close to both of them. I was very, very close to both my mother and my father. But I have very different relationships with each parent. My mother was very much the micro. What is happening today? How are your grades doing? You know, it was very much now. Even later, when I started being an artist, she would try to say, "Oh my God, I mean, these things are selling, make it." I would always, of course, ignore her, but that was my relationship with my mother. With my father was very, very different. We were friends. He was my buddy, and we could talk about just about everything, sex, everything, everything under the sun. Nothing. Actually, with both of them, I could talk about everything with. I could talk everything. About everything. And with my father, it was lovely. He was very much the man on the mountain. He would have the bigger picture. Whenever I'd get fed up, and when we started living together in 2000 again, when this whole complex was created, and whenever like life was just too much for me, I would go and I'd knock on my father's door. Bang, bang, bang. Dada, I hate everything. He said, "Beta, chill, relax. Come in, let's have a drink, let's talk." It was great. I could make him laugh and he could make me laugh and we'd laugh. Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot from my parents, how to live life. They lived such honest, decent lives. They had such a strong conscience about everything. It's not just being an artist, it's about being a good person. I remember once I was driving down the road when I was a kid. I must have been 8 or 9. I don't remember. I was small. My mother turned around and said, "Look at that kid begging on the other side of the window of me. The only reason you're on this side, you're inside the car and not outside on the road, is because you were born in this household. It's not because you're anything special." It was always a reality check with my parents, especially my mother. She kept us grounded, and my father was wonderful. Like, "Beta, in life you win some battles, you don't win some, it's an ongoing thing." And through him, control means freedom, this idea of discipline and striving for the best you can be. No, I never did. See, the thing is, I never wanted. I really, really did not. I completed my major in economics. It was real grief, but I finished it. And I mean, the only time they found out I was doing an art history major was when I won the prize. I was like, oh, I have another major. And then they kind of left me alone. They knew I was trying to sort of like find myself. And when I came back to Pakistan and I wanted to be an artist, my mother was a little like upset because she said, Beta, do you want to live off your father's money the rest of your life? I said, no, I don't. I really did not. It was very important for me to live on my own money after I graduated. And then she kind of gave up and said, Beta, I've lived my whole life with one artist. I don't need another one. So, no, there was a lot of demons. I mean, when I started, I told myself I'm giving myself 3 years. If I can't handle it, if I'm not being able to support myself, then I will go to law school or business school. I mean, I had good grades. I've always been academic, so that was my fallback. And that's why I never went to art school. It didn't even occur to me. I started making work, and I tried to sell it. The whole idea was make whatever you want, what your heart is, what your heart desires, and then try to sell it. And every year I would have one show in Lahore, Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. And I do that year after year after year after year. For the first 3 months of my, sort of career, my mother would give me a 30,000 rupee stipend. And then after 3 or 4 months, I said, no, Ma, I don't think I need it anymore. I think I can do this. And of course, it wasn't glamorous, but it was enough. I never felt like I was lacking for anything. And most importantly, I could buy copper, which is not cheap, and I could buy whatever copper I needed at the moment. I guess my first piece was a small piece of jewelry. That's the very first piece I did. I was just messing around, experimenting with copper, and I made a small pendant. Oh, I sold that piece. Oh, I don't. Well, way back in the day, my pieces were much smaller. I was, my range was 20, 30, 40,000 rupees for small sculptures, 15, 20,000 rupees for necklaces. And yeah, sure. When I first came back from university, I mean, I'd studied art history, but it was all Western. I mean, I studied the Western masters, the Baroque, the Renaissance. My whole education has been in Western art history. And I was really dying to, I didn't grow up with uh, crucifixions and pietas. I grew up with Krishnas and Gandharas, and that's what I grew up with. So when I first came down and I had my first show with Ali Imam in the early 90s, it was a challenge getting that show. At that time, sculpture was not being shown in Karachi. There was only one gallery here, Ali Imam Saab, who's so important for our art history because he created a center for the arts in Karachi. And I said, Uncle, he was my father's friend, and in South Asia we call everybody Uncle. I said, Uncle, give me a show, please give me a show. He said, Beta's sculpture is controversial and doesn't sell, and do something else. I said, no, 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 no. I really want to do this. And I badgered him for 6 months till he finally gave me a show. So with my very first show, I had a lot of Krishnas and Gandharas. I was reinterpreting them in my own imagery. I was also interested in Islamic calligraphy. My parents had these gorgeous bowls from Damascus with silver and copper, an inlay. It was just magnificent. And I remember being fascinated by them as a child. And then self-portraiture, I had to discover myself. Who am I? What am I doing? And that was my first body of work. And then what was interesting is my interests have remained the same. I mean, my work leads me. I don't lead my work. I don't decide, wake up and say, I'm going to do this now and I'm going to do that now. No, the work has a story. It's like I'm part of a story and I want to tell the tale and the tale unfolds itself. And at times it surprises me. I must, I just want to tell a story. See, the thing is, when you're a child, you don't have fear. You don't have fear. If you give a child a crayon and a paper and say, draw, they will draw. They're not going to say, I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to draw a straight line, which is ridiculous. They have no fear. As we get older, we learn to be scared, to be fearful, to place ourselves. So, I mean, it's a general lesson in life is to combat fear. I think we limit our own selves. If you're a young artist and you're trying to make it, and it's difficult, that's why I didn't want to be an artist, because I had no romanticism about the arts. I grew up in an artist family. So I had zero, nada, nil romanticism about this whole shebang. And if you're a young artist, it's difficult. It's not easy. You have to be a little crazy. You have to be passionate and you have to believe. Believe in yourself and that inner voice inside you. Because there's so many pressures on an artist. There's the rich patron who will want it a certain way. There's the art fashion of the time, dictated by curators, especially if you're in a country like Pakistan, where foreign curators come and they want a certain kind of work produced by you. So victimhood, identity politics, etc., etc., etc. So all of these pressures upon you. And how do you sort of navigate through that? The only way you can do it is be true to yourself. If you live, and I truly believe this, if you live an honest life, you will do honest work. And at the end of the day, there's far easier ways of making money. So if you are an artist, make it true to yourself. Make it what you truly believe. And stop listening to your mind and listen to your heart. Well, we all lived together in this complex, this 2,000 square yard complex. My father had the Gulgee Museum on his side. I had the Amin Gulgee Gallery. And then in 2007, they were both murdered. I discovered the bodies, and I was in just a state of shock. The only thing that helped me continue was the work process, my workshop, that I could find refuge and healing in. And a lot of time passed. Then 2 years ago, I told myself that something has to change. This whole place is frozen in time. Still have barbed wire and walls and gates. Something has to change. And either you sell your father's paintings. A lot of people have always been after me for his work, which I have not really sold anything as such. Or you show it. You can't just keep it this way. I mean, things have to change. There was a sort of a realization. So 2 years ago, I found my father's place was designed by Nayyar Ali Dada. My place was designed by Kishore Rizvi. And then, but it had to be re-envisioned, my parents' place. They're no longer live. Kitchens had to be removed. Bathrooms had to be removed. So I got the services of Samina Anjarwala. We worked 2 years on trying to re-envision the space, reimagine it. And then I was very reluctant to curate the collection. I wanted someone else to curate it. I thought I was too close to it. But the person I'd chosen, it didn't work out. So I was kind of almost forced into the role of curatorship. And that was interesting because I remember I was in Paris for 3 months. I've been also writing my memoir. I'm writing my memoir. It's called Glitch, The Story of Me. And I got a call at the end of August saying, hey, I can't do it. And I thought, oh gosh, I guess I have to do it. And I was so scared when I got back home. It was the beginning of September. And I'm very organized. So the entire collection, I had photographs of everything. And I started playing with them like cards. And everything started falling in place for me. So I've divided the collection into 17 sections, and each section has writing with it. Right now, we have just produced the Gulgee Museum Handbook, which will be launched on the 23rd of November at the Adab Festival. It's published by Amina Saeed, who's iconic, CEO of OUP, Oxford University Press in Pakistan, who helped it from a very small organization. She turned it into this huge structure, and then now she has her own publishing house, Lightstone, and I'm very happy to partnership with her, and we're putting the book forward. The Karachi Biennale started, I think, around 2016 or 15, when Niloufar Farouk was the CEO, and she gathered a whole bunch of trustees together. I only kind of knew Niloufar at that time. I didn't really know all the trustees, and she said, "Would you like to be chief curator?" I said, "I'd be honored." And it was quite challenging because just the idea of the Biennale didn't really exist. People say, "What is a Biennale? You can sell things." I'm like, "No, nothing's for sale. It's just to see art. It's not a commercial enterprise." So I picked up a team and I didn't get paid, and I picked up a team which did not get, because we had very limited funds. And I got a team of 3 assistant curators: Sarah Paganwala, Humayun Mabin, and Zirak Ahmed. And we worked about a year and a half on it, I flew around the world on my own money, trying to get artists, trying to convince them to come to Karachi. I would go to them and say, "Karachi is a shithole, and you have to come there. You have to be part of this enterprise. And I can't give you any money because I can't do it. We don't have the infrastructure right now. So can you raise your own money and come?" And these are all very respected artists. And what was amazing is every artist I approached from all over the world came. They all came to Karachi. And over here, customs is a real issue with bringing work into Pakistan. They really, really they make it very difficult. So we worked around it. Our formula was that for artists, for site-specific installations, we asked the artists themselves to come down. So we'd organize for them whatever they needed, and they would come for either 10 days or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, set up the installation before the Biennale, and also get to know my city. Suffer a little bit like we all Karachiites do. And it was quite wonderful. So all these artists came, and and in the last 6 months, I had Zarmina Shah, who was curator at large, who I picked as an advisory role at the end of the whole journey. By that time, most of the artists had been selected, but it was always good to get another point of view. And I was really grateful. We had 12 locations across the city. I think we had 140 or 80, I'm not sure, but a large number of artists. There's a website with all the artists there that's available, and it was exciting. It was really, really, really exciting. And I'm a trustee. I remained a trustee of the Biennale, and this year it's super exciting for the next iteration, which is going to be in 2027. We have Noor Ahmed, who's 31 years old. I mean, she's a baby. And it's really, but we come from a young country. And I have tremendous confidence in her that she's going to do an incredible job. And I'm so, so excited. And another thing, me and Noor are doing an interesting project next year, because the Biennale is in 2027. So for 2026, we are both co-curating a performance art show inside the Gulgee Museum. And it's called Aaj or Kal. Today, tomorrow, and Kal means tomorrow and yesterday. So it's today, tomorrow, and yesterday. And there's an open call for it. We've just posted the open call across Pakistan, and then we'd like some respected artists also to join our party, and I'm incredibly excited about it. So when it will be launching next year? Next year on February 13th. which is Friday the 13th. So I began, my very first show was at the PACC. And I created these pieces, which were like really heavy, and I called them jewelry. They were like each earring weighed a kilo each. I mean, so they were incredibly unwearable. And most people, I mean, people collected them, but most people, and I wanted them to look like, I used rock crystals, and I wanted these sort of organic forms that almost nature created, the sort of illusion that they've sort of been naturally created. And most of the people, I mean, who've collected those pieces, I mean, they were not wearable. And then for my very first show at Ali Imam's gallery, the Indus Gallery, The Search for Light, the jewelry became more wearable, and then there were objects, sculpture, but jewelry and sculpture were always intrinsic. People say you design jewelry. It's like, I don't design jewelry. I made it. I mean, jewelry was done in my workshop. Like you're working on a piece of sculpture and you get stuck there, so you change scale and you go into a pair of earrings. And, like I don't sketch or draw anything. So those became my marquettes, my models. To work out an idea, you could do it on a smaller scale and try to figure it out. And also, we have these great jewelry traditions in South Asia. And my jewelry was always like my material was in copper as well, except I gold plated it. So the material was exactly the same as my sculpture, which is copper and bronze. And yeah, so I used jewelry traditions, and then sometimes those jewelry would come into my sculpture work, and there was always a constant dialogue between the two. And I love making jewelry. I love people touching my work. I love being on necks and around. It's very sensuous, like I'm touching people, literally. And there were one-offs, but in 2007, I went cold turkey. I stopped making jewelry. It was a decision I made because at that point I was curating, was doing performance work. My sculptures got much bigger. I was doing installations, and so I just shelved jewelry for the moment. I never burn bridges. Nothing is a final for me. It's something I love to do, and perhaps one day I'll go back to it. True happiness is love. It's not money. It's not the car. It's not the watch. It's love. Of course, it's love. We all want to be loved, and we all want to love. And that is true happiness. And do you actually need to find it? No, you can never find love. Love is given to you. I'm a firm believer in that. Love diya jata hai, ji. It's given to you. I'm South Asian. You don't find love. And I've been lucky. I mean, wherever I go in the world, I find people who smile at me, which is really nice. Yeah. No, I don't think you can. I don't think you can search for love. You just have to be open to it. And everybody's open to love. And just allow it to happen. They say AI, right? AI. Everybody's talking about AI, but you have to keep in mind, I'm medieval. I'm not even from now. I'm from 100, 200, 500 years ago. And yet now. And with my sculptures, let alone like AI, I never even used computer models or graphic or design models. You always had these models that you could do 3D design in them, even before AI came. I never used that. I didn't even take a pencil to paper because it limited me. I can see these objects in my head. Sometimes they're clear, sometimes it's fuzzy, sometimes it develops, sometimes it doesn't. But these objects exist in my head. You almost can see it, and they're there, and they demand to be brought to light. And so when I'm working with my workshop, I've got 3 or 4 guys I work with, and they're all been with me for years, and they do what I say. So I cut this off, weld this, come here, bang this. I mean, and then we all work in sync. And when it's happening, it's like, you know, it's this sort of really energized process. And it's like, you know, and then the best part of the process is when it's truly happening, you're not even aware of it. And before you know, it's, you know, that day is over. Destination is absolutely not important. It's not what you make, it's how you make it. That's the fun. I mean, that's the joy, that's the pleasure. It's not the object. You know, that's the end. In fact, it's always the journey. And even if the object, a lot of times I'm working on a work that doesn't happen. I've spent months on it, and at the end you're like, oh, stick it in the storage room. My storage rooms are huge. So if something doesn't work, I'm very easy to push it away. And you know, as far as young people, working with young people, because I work a lot with the younger generation everywhere I go, and no, I mean, and I never say like some people sort of call me like, oh, you're mentoring me, and I'm like, I'm not mentoring you. I'm learning as much from you as you're learning from me, and it's a conversation. It's a give and take. You know, I don't want a hierarchy with this. Hierarchies make me nervous.